Hey, what's going on, guys? Kyle here with Variety and Errors. Let's talk about another really cool error banknote that you can look for when you're looking through your cash. Because if you're like me, I always look through all my cash when I get it at restaurants or whatever. So this is an inverted overprint, which is a really rare error, but can be worth a lot of money. So it's something that I wanted to talk about, as they can be worth thousands of dollars if you do come across one. So I think they're really cool. So anyway, enough yabbing on about that. What is an inverted overprint? How does it happen? So if you're familiar with the way that at least US currency, but most currency is printed, it's in a multi-phase printing process. Without getting into each level of that or phase of that specifically, I do have another video on that. In a phase of this process, it's known as the overprint. This is when things like the serial numbers and seals are printed onto the banknote. Sometimes these can result, or this phase can result, in an error. It's exactly what it sounds like. Basically, the overprint is inverted on the note or upside down, and in some cases can be printed even on the opposite side of the note or the reverse of the note. So let's talk about values here in a little bit and more about examples of them, and then of course what they actually realized as far as sales, and then we'll talk about how to sell an inverted overprint. So let's get to it. The cool thing about inverted overprints is that they're an error that's really only been around for like 50 years. Back in 1976, a professional numismatist found 30 notes in sequence that were $1 Federal Reserve notes that all had inverted overprint errors. The third phase of the printing process, or the overprint, is where the elements like the seals and serial numbers are printed on the notes. And these were all upside down in relation to the note elements printed during the first two stages of printing on all the notes that this guy found. These things were basically unknown before 1976, but as far as collectability, nobody really cared or knew about them until this time frame. There's been a ton of inverted overprint errors that entered circulation since that time, so there's been a lot of investigation, a lot of theory and research into why and what happened that caused such a large influx of errors. Now, you should reasonably expect to pay more than like $600–700 for a decent shape inverted overprint on a $1 note. Sometimes you can see these that are graded really, really high, sell in the thousands, and we'll show some examples, and you can see some here in the photos that have sold for thousands of dollars. So in essence, what really happened in the 70s that formed the circumstances for these error notes to come out? Well, I don't want to be super boring, but basically they had changes in the procedure, and during this, they would pull the sheets out to inspect them, and then they would manually feed them back into the machine, and due to human error, these things were fed incorrectly. What's crazy is that in inspection and quality assurance of the notes, the BEP did not know anything about these, and they were released into circulation, and in 1976, a ton of them started popping up in regular people's pockets. So essentially, the backs and faces of the Series 1974 notes were produced using the intaglio printing process and used engraved plates on which the lettering and devices are encused and reversed. During the printing process, the ink is rolled onto plates, filling the recesses of each design for the note, and the resultant printing will feel raised to the touch. There are even many collectors out there that try to complete a set of inverted overprint notes from 1974, as there are notes with this error reported for the $5 bill, $10 bill, and $20 bill, and then of course the one from this series, so it is possible to get a set, although very expensive. Speaking of expensive, let's talk about the value of these things, as that's probably what a lot of you are thinking at this point. Let's stop talking about how they're made, Kyle, and let's talk about what they're worth. Good question. So let's see some examples. This 1976 $2 Federal Reserve note is pretty much one of the most common types of inverted overprint errors other than the $1 bill, as many of them came out. You can expect to spend $400 to $700 on a pretty good condition version of this note, and the one pictured here realized over $2,700 at a heritage auction only back in January of 2021. Now, one thing to note about inverted overprints, there are two different variations of this error. All of them prior to the Series 1981A are of the Type 1 variation and have the designs on the note, both the front and the reverse, to be nicely centered and overall printed well. Type 2 inverted overprints started in Series 1981A because they changed during the series in the cutting stages of the notes. That adjustment produced a front and back misalignment. So essentially, the overprint error is the same on both the notes. However, a Type 2 will be completely off-center, or at least a major shift in the overall print of the note. Generally speaking, on 1993 $10 Federal Reserve notes, not only do some of them have an inverted overprint error, but also a portion of the adjacent note can be seen on the front of another note. So it's almost a complete miscut. You can see that here in this photo. Now, a rarer version of this error in some cases is one where it has an inverted overprint error, and not only is it upside down, but it's also on the wrong side of the note, or the reverse of the note. Depending on the grade of this, you can see that many of them sell between $400 and $1,000. As you can see, there's many examples of these banknotes out there. As I said, they span across different denominations from multiple series, the 1976 versions usually being the most valuable. These can sell for anywhere in just the couple $100 region, in upwards to $3,000 to $5,000, with some outliers selling for even more than that. After a large number of these errors were found in circulation throughout a menagerie of different series, the BEP would eventually crack down and change some production processes in order to cut down on errors in general. And of course, since the late 80s, we don't really see too many inverted overprints pop up, but when they do, there is a ton of money to be involved when you see them sell at auction. Alright, so now that we've talked about what an inverted overprint is, and you saw some examples of ones that have sold for really good money, let's talk about if you think you found an inverted overprint, or you know you found one, and you want to sell it or at least figure out if it's real. So first off, if you found one of these things, then that is awesome. I hope it is real, and I hope it's worth a ton of money when you go to sell it. First off, in my opinion, when you find anything in the collectible realm, it's good to get it authenticated, make sure it's real, and then go from there. In the case of currency, it's no different, and there's a bunch of third-party graders out there like NGC, PCGS, PMG, so on and so forth, that you can send these into to get authenticated. Now, it does cost a fee. I'll put just a general link to their site, to their FAQ, and you can go check it out for yourself in the description box. Anyhow, you can send it off to one of them. If you're lucky, like in the New Bern area of North Carolina, that's kind of close to me, there's a place that offers a service where they'll send it off for you, and they're also just really knowledgeable about currency, and they will help authenticate finds of mine as well as anyone. So if you have a place like that, then of course you can go there, or if you have a friend, or if you're part of any of the Facebook groups or communities across social media or the internet, then it's a good way to figure out whether your find for, in this case, an inverted overprint is real by posting pictures on there. But anyhow, so sending it off to especially a certified grading company like PCGS or PMG or so forth is the best way to authenticate it, as well as they're going to grade it. And then you can really maximize value when you go to sell it. Some good places to sell in that case is going to be, of course, online auction houses like Heritage, as well as great collections and other things like that. Or you can sell it on eBay, Amazon, various online e-commerce platforms. Of course, the fees are kind of high, usually around like 20%. And then you got to deal with the people that buy on there. So in a lot of cases on eBay, people get scammed, and I'd be kind of wary of that. I've bought some stuff from eBay, but it's generally from really large sellers. Other places you can sell it would be locally to the aforementioned store that you could go to, or you could just find a gold, silver, or coin shop and go in and just see what they offer. So there's really a few different ways you can sell it, I think it's really up to you what you think is best and the climate that you're in and where you think you'll get the most money. Let me know what you think about inverted overprints, as they're a really great error, they're really rare, but they're worth a good amount of money when you come across them. So keep looking through your cash. Let me know what you've come across in your coin, banknote, and collectible searches or buys lately in the comments. I'll see you there, and I'll see you across all other social media, and we can chat about one of the greatest hobbies in the world, which is collecting money.